Okay, so basically I'll be talking, I guess, about our Composer installer for users and Hub administrators. And I guess a couple of things first off is kind of, I guess that's who this is for. And what it's for is it's a, Composer is a package manager and a dependency manager for PHP packages. And kind of the goal here is to allow developers on the HUBzero platform to more rapidly develop components, modules, plugins, things like that. And then also to be able to deploy different versions to different servers and give a little more ability to share those with other users of the HUBzero platform. So basically the way it works is you'll define your package. In this case, it'll be a component or module or plugin with a Composer JSON file. And what this is going to do is it's going to force you to use a version control system, and you're going to define what sorts of other packages that your package depends on, relies on. Maybe you need to pull in some form of formula displaying or parsing package that somebody has already written. What this will allow you to do is be able to have your package depend on that and let somebody else handle installing that for you. And because we've wrapped this package manager, an interface around this package manager, you'll be able to install and update those packages independently from the HUBzero platform itself. So just a little bit of background on Composer there. So the Composer JSON schema can be found on Composer's website. And basically you're going to include this file in your package, and then you're going to point the hub at your package. In this case, it'll be a repository. The hub will be able to grab that information and then install your package for you, essentially. So I guess let's take a look at that. So on my hub here, we've gone to the administrator panel, logged in, and currently only super users can use this functionality. We're kind of looking for a little more feedback before going too much further with that. But this is the kind of front page of it right here. We've got a list of packages that you're able to look at, and then a list of repositories that the hub is aware of right over here. We've got controls to add a repository. We might start off by adding a repository. We'd give it a name, an alias, a description. We'd point this at the URL of the repository. Currently, we support GitLab and GitHub for repositories. I've already set up a repository, however, so go back here. I've got a couple of these repositories set up, one of which is this Doctor Who extension. I pulled in the example component from the HUBzero documentation and basically committed it as a package on GitLab. And then from there, we're able to go over to the extension manager again, and we can see that I've installed a version of this, right? One thing to note is, like I had said, it allows you to install different versions and deploy those packages independently from the HUBzero platform. So when you're looking at a new package on the extension manager here, you'll be able to actually select a version of your package to install on this hub, right? Those versions are pulled directly from the version management system. So it's actually looking at tags in this Git repository. As you can see, I've tagged a number of releases here, and that's how we're basically getting that version information into the hub. So you can have multiple developers developing a project, and then you can decide, hey, we'd like to tag this for release or for testing or for whatever you want to tag it. However you want to do that can be done. And then on the hub itself, you can go back over here and install a new version of the package. This is a little beta, so there are a couple of things that might not go through the first time here. There we go. As you can see, version 1.8 was installed. I can pull up the Doctor Who component here, and I added a little version 1.8 indicator in there just to show that that was actually changed there. Like I said, another benefit to this is that we can actually pull in dependencies. So if I go back over here and I look at my revision history here, in version 1.9, what I did was actually I had included a dependency on an external library, Firebase PHP JWT. And what that's going to do is that's actually going to handle pulling down and installing that required package. So I've told the hub that I need this package to be installed for this version of Doctor Who to run. And what we'll see here is when I install version 1.9 of Doctor Who, we will see that Firebase JWT package get installed. As you can see here, version 1.9 was installed, and also version 5.0.0 of Firebase was installed, which if we go back to GitLab here, we can see here that I did require version 5.0 to be installed. It's a good chunk of it. I can go through maybe a little more demoing of functionality and features, but I guess this is most of what this is about and who it's for and why we've got it. Do we have any questions maybe?
Questions, concerns, comments? Requests for additional demoing? Maybe. We have Drew Lamar on the line and Nicole and user as well. Drew, did you have questions?
I was just gonna ask if you could just show me a quick example of your composer.json for the Doctor Who. I mean, you've done it already, but
absolutely. Let's see over here. We'll go over to right in here. Real simple. Because it's just a wrapper around Composer, what I did was I actually wrote a let's see here. Is that bigger to see there?
it's like really easy.
So what I did was actually wrote a wrapper or a extension installing manager, right? So a big key to this is in the actual Composer JSON file on the hub. The installer itself right here needs to be added as a repository so that Composer knows that you're authorizing this installer to take control of that. And basically all of that installer really does, if I go back over here.
Oh, I see. That's something that you already have added. I see.
Correct, right. And I guess that's kind of a big part of this is that if we go over here to HUBzero extension installer, Okay, so all that this plugin really does, it's just a few lines that essentially says it takes the package type, right? And if we look back at the Composer JSON in my package, right, I've defined the type to be a HUBzero component. And all this extension installer does is says like, okay, well, you've got a HUBzero component. I know the prefix to be a comma underscore, and it should go in the components directory. And then basically when the installer is asked, hey, where should I put this package, it returns the directory, which in this case is components, and then package name. If I head back over here, we can see, we can actually see in app compose, or there we go. We can actually see that Doctor Who directory, right? And that Doctor Who directory, if we just kind of take a look at that, model, I think it's under TARDIS, right? That's actually where we're getting that version 1.9 with JW, right? So all it really does is it tells Composer to install it into that components directory. Otherwise, it would install all other dependencies and stuff into app vendor, which is where we'll find the Firebase and the HUBzero extension installer, right? But unfortunately, the CMS doesn't know to load components from the vendor directory, so we needed to put them somewhere, and that's why we need the installer. I think sometime on the roadmap, pretty far down the line, we would like to be, I think it's PSR 4 compliance for auto loading and things like that. But we'd like to get there so that we wouldn't even need the installer, and components can just kind of load from the vendor directory. But yeah, so the Composer JSON file for a package that you'd like to install is really pretty simple there. It just requires a name, some short description of it, and any requirements. The big one is the type there, though. So.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Yep, and then in terms of setting it up on Hubs currently, there's a little bit of work to do for those of you that don't administrate your own servers. There's a little bit of work we got to do to set up the Composer file, but at the base of it is generally you'll need a GitHub access token that I realize I'm now going to need to revoke, and point that extension installer at it. Just about everything else should be handled by the installer. So that's, I think, about it there. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them now, or if you have any further questions, you feel free to email me or shoot me a message on Slack.